but we're not in the game to take punishment. He was turning this guy all night, and this guy know he didn't win. And was he tough? Actually, very tough and rugged.
Shut me up.
Real quick,
I'm right here. Shut me up. Shut me up. Hello.
For real.
I don't know why.
Just don't cry, bro. Don't cry afterwards.
I don't know why.
Please don't cry.
All right, he'll take it on the chin. He'll be all right.
You gonna cry, man.
Now watch this.
Man,
Watch
got you on
January
the pound for
31st.
pound list, man.
After the fight, I want you to talk everything you've been talking since I've been baby.
Man, I can't wait.
I'm gonna show you.
Man, I wish it was tomorrow, man. I wish it was today, man.
Man, we could. I'm ready right now.
Shut you down.
I'm ready at any given time.
I'm tired of your mouth, bro.
Bro, you not like that.
They said they weren't in this game to absorb punishment. They said control mattered more than noise. That turning a man for 12 rounds leaves its own kind of truth behind, whether the crowd accepts it or not. Even in the shouting, there was an undercurrent of something else, an insistence that toughness be acknowledged, that respect be granted, that the outcome already lived somewhere beneath the words. What sounded like bravado was also a demand not to be dismissed. The press conference didn't unfold like a conversation. It unraveled. Voices overlapped. Old grievances resurfaced. Pride filled the gaps where certainty should have lived. Challenges were issued with the urgency of someone who no longer wanted to wait. January 31st became more than a date. It became a reckoning deferred, a moment everyone believed would settle what words clearly could not. When Floyd Mayweather spoke, the temperature changed. Not because he raised his voice, but because he didn't need to. He reminded everyone, quietly, that preparation doesn't announce itself, that discipline doesn't argue. He talked about work done in isolation, about letting Saturday night speak on his behalf. It wasn't dismissive. It was final. A reminder that noise fades when timing and structure arrive. Then Teofimo Lopez Sr. stepped in, carrying the weight of belief that only a parent can hold. He spoke of past victories as proof of inevitability, of freezing opponents before they could find rhythm or breath. It sounded rehearsed, almost pre-written, like a future already decided in his mind. But beneath the confidence was something tighter: fear of doubt, fear of silence, fear that belief alone might not be enough this time. Shakur Stevenson didn't meet the volume. He didn't mirror the aggression. He smiled, briefly, and spoke about exposure, not in a mocking way, but as an assessment. He framed the fight as a test of the mind before the body. He talked about weakness not as insult, but as vulnerability, mental strain, pressure under expectation, the places fighters don't like to admit exist until someone touches them. That contrast lingered, one side leaning on force and disruption, the other trusting patience and structure. It stopped feeling like trash talk and started feeling like a philosophical divide, how you believe fights are won, and what you're willing to live with afterward. Shakur explained why he wanted this fight without theatrics. He saw someone at the height of their momentum and felt his own competitive edge sharpen, not out of resentment, but curiosity, a need to measure styles honestly, in the open. Observers circled the same truths. Lopez carries strength, speed, and confidence earned the hard way. Stevenson carries something quieter: economy, awareness, restraint shaped by time. Some argued that to beat Shakur, you have to disrupt him, make it uncomfortable, deny him space. Others warned that forcing chaos against someone who thrives on control can slowly turn into a long, draining night. What remained unresolved was not who talked better, but who would remain themselves when the bell rang. Because underneath all of it, the shouting, the predictions, the lineage, the pressure, this wasn't just about winning a fight. It was about whose approach holds when identity is tested, about whether discipline can outlast disruption, and about what each man is willing to carry forward when the noise finally stops. There was a belief, stated plainly, that the moment had arrived for the undefeated record to be tested, not as spectacle, but as inevitability. The confidence wasn't framed as arrogance so much as conviction, the sense that pressure, applied long enough and with intent, eventually forces truth to the surface. Even when acknowledging Shakur Stevenson's reputation as one of the most disciplined defensive fighters in the sport, the answer remained the same: yes, he could be stopped. Not because caution is weakness, but because precision alone doesn't guarantee safety when the stakes rise. The conversation shifted toward history, toward evidence. Teofimo Lopez's performance against Vasily Lomachenko was held up not as mythology, but as a reminder of what sustained urgency can do. What often goes unspoken about that night is the volume, the refusal to coast, the 100 punches thrown late to remove doubt. Even in loss, as with the bout against George Kambosos, context mattered. Physical complications, an off night, the quiet realities that rarely make headlines but leave marks all the same. And then the noise gave way to something steadier. Richardson Hitchens entered the discussion without performance, without posture. What he offered couldn't be rehearsed. He spoke from memory, from years spent alongside Shakur before cameras followed them, sleeping in gyms, sparring into exhaustion, learning the sport before there was anything to gain from it. That kind of proximity changes perspective. When Hitchens says Shakur operates on a different level, it doesn't come from allegiance. It comes from having survived that rhythm, from understanding how early foundations shape what a fighter becomes under pressure. Hitchens didn't dismiss Teofimo. He acknowledged the danger, the talent, the pedigree. He admitted the fight could be competitive, but he kept returning to the same quiet conclusion: boxing-wise, the gap is real. He also didn't pretend defense is foolproof. Too much restraint can invite problems, but he drew a line between caution and calculation. Shakur, in his view, isn't just evasive, he solves problems in real time. That distinction matters more than most realize. When Hitchens said, "It's different," it didn't land like provocation. It landed like experience speaking ahead of consequence. Even when he joked about stepping in himself should an upset occur, the tone underneath didn't change. This wasn't about fantasy or hype. It was about what tends to happen when preparation meets pressure, and instinct takes over. Some truths in boxing aren't loud. They're learned slowly, and remembered clearly. At its core, this fight keeps coming back to a simple idea: skill has to arrive on time. Richardson Hitchens didn't dress it up or sell suspense. He spoke in plain terms, grounded in years of lived experience. His point was quiet but heavy. Teofimo Lopez would need to be nearly flawless for 12 full rounds, while Shakur Stevenson would only need to remain who he already is. Anyone who has spent enough time around boxing understands the difference between those two demands, and understands which one usually breaks first.
I'm locked in. I put in the work. Saturday night, all of my work is going to take care of itself. So he could bring whatever he want. He can come in pressure, do whatever he got to do. He's just going to bring out the best of me.
You fight, man, because you just want everybody to think you're the best, man. You never fought nobody.
Senior, do not fall when you get in the ring.
Nobody like my son.
I don't want to see
Nobody like my son.
Stay on your feet.
Bro, he faster, quicker, smarter.
Gotta have it in control.
More entertaining. More entertaining.
Snap.
Shut up, man.
Bigger.
That double stepping that you do, bro, I got that shit
You're
figured
so
out.
mad. I'm under your skin, I know that.
There was respect in that assessment, not dismissal. Lopez is widely acknowledged as one of the most accomplished young fighters of his generation, a competitor with real power, real confidence, and a real plan. No one pretended this would be easy for Stevenson, but Hitchens kept returning to the same conclusion. When it comes to the deeper mechanics of boxing, the timing, the decision-making, the ability to solve problems under pressure, Shakur operates in a different register. Then Gary Russell Jr. entered the conversation with the calm of someone who has lived on both sides of volatility. He reduced the argument to a principle he's trusted his entire career: intellect over athleticism. Not as an insult, but as a warning. Lopez's explosiveness is undeniable, but raw force doesn't intimidate fighters who understand distance, angles, and exits. Still, Russell didn't absolve Stevenson either. He acknowledged that this fight could turn difficult if Lopez applies pressure with intention, what he called controlled chaos. Not recklessness, but purposeful bursts. Closing space, touching first, forcing moments where judges lean forward and narratives shift. When Russell referenced the Lomachenko fight, it wasn't nostalgia. It was instruction. Lopez had already shown he could disrupt a master technician by committing in spurts rather than waiting for perfection. If he could recreate that urgency, push Stevenson backward, make him react instead of initiate, the shape of the fight could change quickly. Boxing, after all, lives on optics as much as outcomes. But Russell also made the risk clear. If Lopez hesitates, if he waits too long or tries to be clever, Stevenson has the patience to turn the night into something draining and unrewarding. A fight where nothing lands cleanly, where momentum never forms, where frustration quietly accumulates. Russell noted something important in that balance. Lopez can hurt Stevenson. That possibility alone alters the equation. Still, he leaned towards Stevenson, not because of dominance, but because decision-making tends to last longer than bursts of brilliance. What Russell offered wasn't contradiction, it was condition. This fight, he suggested, isn't about who is better in theory. It's about who remains true to themselves once pressure closes in. Intellect wins when chaos stays contained. Chaos wins when intellect is crowded. That's why the outcome feels uncertain, but not random. And just as that framework settled in, Gabe Rosado added another layer without raising his voice. He observed that both men are champions who still fight as if they have something to prove. Not praise, warning, hunger like that narrows margins. When Rosado described the matchup as a high-intensity chess match, it didn't sound patient. It sounded tense. Neither fighter is built to coast when pride is involved. Rosado's lean toward Stevenson wasn't about loyalty. It was about evidence. He pointed to moments where Shakur stepped into exchanges, absorbed shots, worked the body, and still maintained control. That wasn't abandoning a style, it was expanding it. Questions about Stevenson's resolve weren't answered with words. They were answered with composure under fire. At the same time, Rosado didn't minimize Lopez. He called him phenomenal, dangerous, hungry, because ignoring real threats is how careers end early. If both men show up aggressive, the space for error collapses fast. This isn't a fight where either side can afford comfort. What ultimately shifted the tone was Rosado's focus on what surrounds Stevenson. The minds in his corner. The accumulated knowledge of fighters who have faced every version of doubt and pressure imaginable. That kind of guidance doesn't show up in punch statistics. It shows up in adjustments made between rounds, in instincts refined over years, in calm decisions made when adrenaline is loud. None of that guarantees an outcome. Boxing never offers certainty, but it explains why so many experienced voices keep circling back to the same place. Not because Lopez can't win, but because Stevenson keeps adding layers without losing himself. And when hunger is paired with that kind of preparation, the danger becomes quiet, steady, and hard to escape. There is a slight lean toward Shakur, and it isn't based on reputation alone. It comes from what he chose to show in his last outing. Against Zepeda, he stepped into a space many believed he avoided. He stayed in the pocket. He absorbed contact. He worked the body with intention, layered his combinations, maintained his defense, and proved, without announcing it, that he could take a punch and remain composed. For those who questioned whether there was another gear beneath the restraint, that night offered an answer. Not loudly, but clearly. That moment matters because it reframed the conversation. It revealed a side of Shakur that had existed all along but hadn't been demanded until then. The resolve. The willingness to meet resistance without losing structure. The ability to endure without becoming reckless. Whatever doubts lingered about his resilience were not argued away, they were addressed through action. And when you step back from the noise, from the camps, the predictions, the confidence spoken into microphones, the fight distills into a single, uncomfortable question. When everything is on the line, what do you trust more, discipline or disruption? Teofimo Lopez brings strength, speed, and the kind of belief that tells a fighter one moment can change everything. He has lived that reality before. Shakur Stevenson brings patience, precision, and a system designed to erase moments before they can grow into momentum. One thrives on fracture, the other on control. The respect is real. The danger is real. Those closest to the sport recognize it immediately. If Lopez succeeds in forcing chaos on his terms, history suggests he can bend even the most disciplined opponents. But if Stevenson keeps the fight inside his structure, momentum doesn't explode, it quietly disappears. There is no simple answer here, only consequences. And whichever philosophy holds under pressure will leave its mark long after the final bell.